All right, in the last 2 weeks, man, we nailed down best of 2019 calcium and alkalinity. So what's next?
It's the last of the major foundational elements, the magnesium component.
All right, so you're going to end today knowing which one of these test kits, man, that we think is best, boast our opinions, as well as the whole BRS team and testing and changing different things. So you're going to find out for sure which one of these, man, I think you should use in 2019 and probably 2020. But we have a few things we're going to ask out of the test guys at the end here. Like, let's make some improvements for the future.
Absolutely.
So let's start here with the Nyos Magnesium. All right, starting with what we liked in the Nyos Magnesium test kit, man, what was the first thing?
First thing for me was the how distinct the color change was. We were sitting in his office, and I was watching him do the drops. We were kind of doing the test together, and it was pink once, drip, sort of blue, drip, blue. It was like that. So
I think arguably the most distinct color change of all of them, and it might have been related to the smaller sample, so it has less give, but you know what, it was definitely the most distinct color change for sure. And you know, one of the other things I liked about it is you know, they care about the components, you know. So again, you know, you get 3 different syringes here. One of the syringes that you use has the right amount of like kind of tactile feedback, or resistance rather, so I can get a nice steady stream of drops out of it without, you know, worrying about squirts and stuff. Even with the super narrow tip on it, actually worked really good. It was reliable. So all the little components for actually performing the test were actually nice, man. What else?
Yeah, with that, it is a 3-step, 2-reagent type of process with a titration. So that means you have like an A part, then a B part, and then you've got the C titration, which is somewhat common with some of these tests, where it's like a 3-parter type test, and then you titrate out.
I would say almost all of them were that, except for one.
Yeah. So those were some things that we liked about it.
Easiest. Didn't like the colors on the card do not match the color of the test kit. I'm going to say it's pretty nitpicky here in this case, because the color change was so distinct and easy to read. I don't really need to match these colors as much.
Yeah, once you get a couple of these under your belt and you figure it out, I mean, you could probably go away with the looking at the color differences on the card. So
well, it was a little nitpicky there.
Yeah.
I will say that one of the things I didn't like is the 1 milliliter sample size. And I'm just finding this to be the case that if you do the smaller sample size, the more rare, you know, room for error is with most of this stuff. That's probably not universally true against all test kits, but it's been my experience so far that the smaller the reagent size, the least lower likelihood that we're going to be happy with the results. So, and that across the scale, the more people are going to do it less accurate.
Yeah, true. I think you know, one of my last gripes about it, I would say, or dislikes about it, is a lot of these manufacturers, for a variety of different tests, like the alkalinity that we saw, the calcium that we saw, some of them make their instruction cards, you know, really, you know, their picture instruction cards. So I really don't need to read the word step by step of what to do. This one you kind of want to, you probably for your first few times you use it, if you decide to use the Nyos, read through the actual step by step instructions, because there are a couple pieces that are just not in the visual portion.
It's not telling you like when to mix it, you know, do the drops, swirl, stop, or whatever. So if you just went through and did it without, or swirling without checking that, you're actually not supposed to swirl between some of these steps, and it doesn't say that on here. So you do need to read the directions and or memorize them, one or the other. Whereas all the other ones, like you can just, or not all of them, but most of the other ones you can get just from the visual reference. I don't have to get out my old man glasses and read it, you know. So yeah, I don't know, that was one of the things. I will say that it was the most expensive at 40 cents a test kit as well.
Yeah, $19.99, you get about 50 tests from the Nyos, which does put it at 40 cents a test, 39 cents, 39.9 cents, but 40 cents a test out of these 4, the most expensive. And this one was not our best, not our worst performer in consistency, but right up there with the all over the place as far as our results were.
There's a 180 point variance just between the 5 different people that performed the exact same test. And so I don't have a good reason as to why that is, other than 5 people just read it totally different. So that's not a good sign for me. All right, so I don't know, man. What do you give this one?
Thumbs wise on this one, okay, well, I do like the color change. So if I'm reading the color change consistently over and over and over again, my consistency is probably going to get closer than 5 of us doing it. So that's probably about the biggest thing I like about it, and why I would probably maybe choose this one. I would choose other options first, personally, which means I'm probably giving this one like a half a thumb.
I'm just not going to give it any thumbs. I probably wouldn't use it. It just was too inaccurate for me. I didn't like the 1 milliliter sample size, and I prefer to have directions I can read. So
yep.
The 180 point difference to me, just I needed better performance in general. So I don't give none, no thumbs. But what about the AquaForest one up next?
Let's find out.
All right, next up is the AquaForest Magnesium Test Kit, and I'll tell you right now, I'm going to give it away. I actually like this one a lot, so we'll find out a couple of different reasons, but what was your first one?
I like this one a lot also. The color change endpoint was really easy to read, and as far as consistency goes, the best that we had in our performances.
It's probably the easy to read endpoint is part of the consistency that 5 different people can read it, pretty darn good. So, and in a similar window. So, that's important. And one of the cool things, man, that I didn't like and liked at the same time is the instructions here had the same problem where if you don't read the actual instructions, you're gonna miss some steps.
Right.
Like, it doesn't tell you to not swirl or swirl at any step, and some of them, like the first one, you're supposed to add the 5 drops, not swirl or mix it, and then add the other 3. One of the cool things here is, most of you probably don't know this, but the way that you test hardness and stuff is you usually test total hardness and then either magnesium or calcium hardness and kind of subtract it out. And I've always wondered how they do that with the magnesium test kits, and could be they're precipitating out the calcium or different steps and stuff, or it could be they're just presuming some level of magnesium or calcium in some of these test kits to be able to come out that sounds kind of like a cheap way to do it, but in all honesty, you probably know pretty close. Most people are probably 20 points one way or another, or 420.
Yeah.
Whether or not my magnesium is 1300, 1320, it doesn't really matter. So you do that subtraction.
Yeah, I think in the instructions here, it's the range for using 5 drops of A is somewhere in the 360 to 470 range. They're assuming your calcium level is, and for a lot of people, that's probably pretty dang close.
So let me just clarify, because I probably lost you in there. This instructions, the first step has used 5 drops of reagent A, unless your magnesium or your calcium level is way off. So, for instance, if your calcium level is 530 to 470, use 6 drops. If it's over 540, use 7 drops. So instead of giving you just kind of an artificial assumption of what your calcium level might be, they're addressing that for that fact in this test. So I'm not surprised that it kind of came out different. It does have 4 steps in it because of the extra step they're doing here. I don't know. I really liked it. It gave me a little bit of confidence that they're taking another step to do it differently than other people.
To add to the level of confidence that you get with this one, and this is kind of what I liked about the AquaForest across the board so far that we've seen, is that they include reference solutions, so and you can train yourself how to read that endpoint. So each one of them, the alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium, have some sort of reference in there. And you can just practice testing.
Yeah, find out where 1300 is or wherever the reference solution is. This is what it should look like at the end.
Yeah.
So being able to train where the endpoint is a total differentiator between all of them. It's also the cheapest one.
Yeah.
Right? So it's hard not to like the cheapest when it comes together with all the other benefits you want.
Yeah, at $17.99 you get about 55 to 60 tests, which works out to be about 30 cents a test.
Yeah. So bravo on that as well. And so what are some of the things that you didn't like?
Dislike on this one, again, you have the added step that most don't.
4 to 3.
So it's a 4-stepper, where you have a reagent A, a reagent B, and then a scoop of C, and then you start the titration step. So it's a 4-step process.
I will say the 4-step though, you're doing 5 drops and then you're adding 3, so it's not like a whole lot of shaking and stuff in between. It adds a few seconds.
Yeah.
Like a lot of droppers, I found that these droppers actually kind of leak during storage. So when you unscrew them, a few drops fall out. So after that, I actually found the right type of tension to get a nice even bubble that comes out of it. But I would say the first thing you should do is shake one off the top of it and get rid of the excess solution on the top, and that will probably start you right for the right amount of drops. And they give you little clear directions in here to not get a drop on the sidewall of the vial. And
straight into
the
solution.
I like that they're really giving you clear direction on how to perform the test kit properly. If you read the text, not so much with the visual element.
And it's a paper paper instructions too, so prone to getting waterlogged, prone to kind of, destroyed over time. I mean, you're getting 60
this thing
tests.
by nature. How many tests? 60? So I'm going to touch this thing with wet hands 60 times.
Oh,
right? Yeah. I'm going to set it in a puddle of water probably, and like some of you might be like thinking, well, why do they keep harping on this paper thing? And I just got to tell you, it's because these things are used around water. They should be like designed as such, and it doesn't mean it's bad or anything. No. It just means it could be better. That's all I'm saying. So
consistency-wise, this was, like we said, the best. Yep. So a 90 part per million difference between 5 of us who tested it, between the low of 1350 and the high of 1440, which is in a pretty reasonable range.
So I just want to get that out into the universe that like we tested 4 different test kits, 5 different people tested them, and the best that we saw was a 90-point range. So, and these are just hobby grade test kits. We're just looking for the best that we can possibly get in a home environment for a reasonable cost. 30 cents a test. You gotta have reasonable expectations, and your tank isn't gonna perform any different that if it's at 1300 or 1350. Right. I can tell you for sure that it is not going to tank. It's such a small change. The difference between 350 calcium and 400, absolutely. Difference between 1300 and 1350 magnesium, no way.
Okay.
So
thumbs.
All right, so thumbs, man, go for it.
As far as magnesium offering goes on these ones, and the level of consistency, I'd give this one about. I'd go 2 thumbs, but there's a couple grapes in there that puts me at 1.5 thumbs.
Wow. I'm gonna go all the way 2. I'm gonna go 2 to the like magnitude of the Hanna alkalinity checker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like that thing is like ship it home, man. That's the only one I would ever use. This thing is the same thing, man. Surprised me honestly, but the AquaForest Magnesium Test Kit is the one I would use.
Okay.
I'm giving it away.
Fair enough.
Here, but like, it really performed really well.
It's the same one that I said I'd use too. So for sure.
All right, man. Well, so let's move on to the Red Sea. See how it goes. All right. So it's super hard to live up to the AquaForest here, but I gotta tell you that the Red Sea actually did really well too on a whole variety of fronts, and there's a lot to like here.
This is one that this is my main go-to. It has been my go-to for years now. Mainly because I bought the whole kit at once and it's included. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten so used and comfortable to using this one that I've gotten used to trusting it and everything like that. I do like this one specifically because I don't have a scoop and a powder that I have to dump into the thing. This one is a 2-dropper process, and it looks like it precipitates out the calcium in this one.
Yeah, it even says in the bottom you'll see some precipitate in there, so it's probably precipitate of the calcium. And so it is 3 steps. I'll tell you right off the bat, I always like that the instructions are, water resistant, the plastic box, whatever, it's going to last. And I will agree that most people are buying this thing in that foundation kit, so you get all 3 of them together, but even by itself it's pretty affordable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So instructions tell you exactly what to do. And I'd glance at all the steps because this one's going to be a little different, but it tells you exactly what to do. You do not need to read anything to be able to perform this test kit. The only thing about this one in the instructions is that on reagent A, it's a little confusing. If you saw this, it would say, 1 drop times 5 times 15 seconds. You really just kind of got to look at that image and really understand. Yeah. That means 1 drop, spin for 15 seconds, 1 drop, spin for 15 seconds. You know, 5 times, and if you're like me, I lose count in the middle. But
this has happened to me so much to the point where every time I use this one now, I put a finger on the table, I do a drop, and I swirl it, and then I put 2 fingers, and I kind of go through the process like that so I can keep track, because I'll be distracted like
I was going to say the same thing. I feel like a dummy because I'm so distracted, but you know what? When I'm doing this thing, my mind's in a million other places than this. So it doesn't take much to distract me. And man, was it 4 or was it 5? I don't know. So I like your finger idea. So also, I like the fact that you can just squirt 4 milliliter or 0.4 in there. It tells you right in the instructions. Don't bother with dripping. The chemistry's going to be just fine if you just squirt almost half of it right off the bat and go from there.
Yeah. And then also on that one, as far as the consistency goes on this one, there was like 3 of us out of the 5 that got the exact same result, and it wasn't like one of these fluke results like the calcium where somehow everybody ended up at the very end of the syringe. This one was in the middle of the syringe at a stop point, which leads me to believe that the color change is pretty easy to read. All 1340.
I think I just missed it. So Dave clearly missed it. You see he's off the charts here. I think I just missed it because because it changes from like a purple to a blue
Yep.
or vice versa, and I think I just probably missed it. And the fact that all three of you nailed it, man, I feel like I screwed up the results, to be honest, because it could have been even more consistent. But if you rule out Dave's total blunder, I mean, this thing's only 60 points different from one to the next, and maybe that extra step of really precipitating everything out and taking 15 seconds and then actually another 60 seconds afterward.
Yeah.
Maybe it pays off.
It might, but yeah, I mean, the data on this one, as you can see, is the 280 variants on this one. If, like you said, if you take Dave's out, it becomes the most consistent. So, and he had never really done this test before, so there's probably something to say about that also. But
it was definitely harder to read endpoint. And so it's only 35 cents, even if you get just a test kit here. So like if you don't buy the like a Foundation Pro kit and you just give yourself still 35 cents a test, and then you can even get reagent refills for cheaper.
Yeah, it's got one of the most tests out of a single test kit from the group here. So this one can do, they say it can do 100 tests. So at $34.99, that makes it 35 cents a piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, the magnesium A and B bottles got bigger. So
all right, so what didn't we like?
This didn't like is the time, so that whole losing count, so it's 5 drops, 15 seconds between each, and then you really have to kind of dig into the instructions to understand that after you put in the 5 drops of B, you swirl lightly and you set and wait for 60 seconds.
I forgot, that was a miss on these instructions actually, that it says 5 drops and then it shows a 60-second timer. But if you read the actual written instructions, it says put the 5 drops in swirl and then let it rest until it develops that color that it's looking for 60 seconds, not swirl.
Yeah.
And so that could also be part of the difference. And I can tell you right now that I swirled for 60 seconds when I did it, because I was following this chart here. So maybe that was one of the reasons why I got different results than you guys did. But yeah, it's definitely a miss, I think, on here that it doesn't tell you that one step of just swirl for a second, set it down.
So we did agree that to some degree, to this one, that the endpoint was a little harder to find, and may have been like 2 or 3 drops, and then it might slightly color change back and then go back to it, and then again that was probably why we ruled Dave's results out on the consistency factor. But other than that, there's little edge to when it changes color, so it's not very definitive as far as like the Nyos was.
Yeah, there's a window there you could determine the difference between blue and purple for sure. And different people are going to determine it differently, and again, probably a reason why we're reading a little different. So in this case, man, what do you give it?
I've used this one for so long. I'm graduating over to a different test kit, which we might see at the end here. But this one I'm going to go with a half a thumb.
Oh, half thumb.
I'm going half a thumb on this.
All right, you know what? I was going to go all the way to like 1.5, man, for me, right? I think that the chemistry on it is probably right. I just think you're going to have to train yourself how to read the endpoint, and you're going to have to remember to read the instructions, not just the card here. But I think it's probably producing the right result if you can read the endpoint properly. I mean, that's a big if, because it's hard to know when you found it if it's not distinct. But I like the chemistry that you're probably taking those extra steps for a good reason. And I don't know that for sure, but it certainly seems like they're precipitating out. And it even says in the instructions that's what they're doing.
You'll see precipitate, yeah.
So
maybe you've convinced me to slide up to a 1 thumb.
Right, so
I'll give it a full thumb.
There we go.
I'll give it
All
a
right,
full thumb.
Salifert, one of the big favorites. Actually, Salifert's won a couple different times now, that one's coming up.
We'll see if it can do the third.
Okay, so again, Salifert, big favorite of test kits in the reefing hobby for sure. And this is the magnesium one. And the first thing I liked, man, is the visual instructions here. This is the first one actually that I think nailed it on all fronts. Visually, I can just follow along and read. And some of you that doesn't matter, somebody does. For me, you're often doing this like in the dark, in a fish room or in a basement or whatnot. And so, like having to be able to not have to read the fine little print and stuff is actually nice. And just visually kind of walk you through the process. So that was actually the best on some degrees of the actual elements of performance. So I like that.
Yeah, I do like that. It is another 3-step process. So it's a 3-step process with 2 reagents. reagents. So you have the A, you have the B, and then you titrate. It's a powder type of reagent B2, so that's where your color indicating change starts with the little scoop of powder. But you know, for all in all, the syringe, I mean, the tensile strength of the syringe, where you can depress it and not squirt a whole bunch in or not get half drops or all this other stuff, is pretty nice too. So, and the end point on the syringe is just always easy for me to read with these Salifert ones too.
Yep. And this one actually has a cool thing. It just tells you to squirt in 80% of it right off the bat, right? And that makes it way faster. So you can know the chemistry is right, even if I just put in 80% of it right away, and then I start dripping for the end point. And it just saves a ton of time. So I gotta like that.
Okay.
All right, so what didn't you like?
Dislike on this one was probably that, you know, this is one where Salifert had won, in my opinion, for all of the other categories as far as instructions go, to where on the alkalinity, on the calcium, there was no denying that the color that they had on the page, on the instructions, was the color you should expect at the end point of here. Except for with the magnesium, it's off. Okay, it's not what you'll see on the instructions, and it even says it could be gray, it could be blue, whatever comes first.
Yeah, so it definitely isn't this light blue, and it could be gray, it could be blue, and it's super hard to read where that endpoint is.
Yeah.
And you'll see that in our consistency chart, where Randy and I were pretty close together, and then the other guys, the three guys, were pretty close together. You know, a total of 105 apart, but I have a feeling that we were just reading different endpoints again here. Like what you and I thought was the endpoint was different than those guys. The endpoint is not super clear. Even the instructions, like wait for gray or blue, whichever one it is first, it is not super clear. I think that's going to show in the results. So
and cost was a little bit prohibitive on this one too, as far as not being my favorite, in that it's only 1 cent cheaper than the most expensive option here at 39 cents a test. That makes, you know, Salifert had won in the economic, you know, factor as far as the last two.
I thought they would make the trifecta.
Yeah, almost. But now in this one, it just ends up being that this one 39 cents a test. You do get 50 tests out of the kit at $19.61 roughly. So yeah,
all right.
Thumbs wise?
Thumbs wise, go for it.
All right, for me, thumbs on this one. I'm a half a thumb. I'm a half a thumb on this one.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give it no thumbs again.
Okay.
I just can't. I found the end point not satisfying enough to read. And then when I saw where everybody else was hitting it, like gray to blue, just isn't good enough. It would be if I didn't have other options for me. Like if I own that kit, I'd just keep using it.
Yeah.
But if I were in the market and I wanted to buy one that was going to give me the best results, I wouldn't pay extra for one that like is not going to be easier to read. There's no way. So for me, I'm gonna have to give it none. Okay. Okay, so one of these guys has become best of 2019. Which one is it? All right, so I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised that the best of show here was the AquaForest test kit. Obviously, our love for this test kit kind of came through in this one. It's real obvious to me.
Yeah, I called this one in the full, you know, BRStv investigates of the alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. That I'm actually going to switch to this for my magnesium now. And you know, after what we discovered today, as far as the variations on your calcium level, it just bumps it up there even higher for me.
I know I went better than when we talked about it last time. Yeah. Because all in all, I missed this hidden in the instructions, so that was a really cool thing to find and actually explore in different ways. So also most economical is also, you know, best of 2019. Which one is it?
AquaForest.
Boom, man! This is the first of any of the test kits who won both prizes for 2019.
Yeah.
Well, you should send these guys some flowers or something, man.
30 cents a test kit, or 30 cents a test. That makes it super economical. So
yeah, awesome, man.
Both fronts, absolutely.
Maybe like a trophy or something. So best, most economical and best. It's not often you can get kind of more, better, less, like value trifecta and anything. Yeah. Apparently this one is one of them. And so what are some of the things you'd like to see for 2020? Man, we'll come back and do this maybe again next year. So what would you like to see different for any of these guys?
You know, for me, personally, the AquaForest, the directions on this one is about where it lost some points for me. I just want to see, you know, a picture indication of what needs to happen here that's more clear. So I want to know when to swirl, add that in. I want to know that, hey, on dropper bottle A, don't shake it up before dropping it, and make sure you don't touch the edges and the rims and everything. Put it right in the solution. So
I'd like it if that was better done as well.
Yeah.
I'd also like it if they, put this other little bit about where your calcium level is forward, and made it so that was a little clearer for most people. I'm just gonna keep harping on this. I'd love it if the instructions were, I'm gonna touch this with wet hands. I wish that they were water resistant to some degree.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't the box, it doesn't take much to laminate a card. And I'm gonna go throw down this because it was like what I would call like a runner-up, man, or like an honorable mention with the Red Sea Test Kit. One of our big gripes with this guy is always that you're reading the syringe backwards. So I won't harp on it again, but let's read how much you used or how much is left, not how much you used, so I don't have to do the math. 2020.
Yeah, this one, Red Sea gets my honorable mention mostly because I have such familiarity with it, and it's dropper bottle reagent. It's super easy.
So all of our actual best 2019 test kit videos can actually be found in the testing, and even every single testing video we've ever done can be found in the navigation of the Bulk Resupply website. You can go check that out, or you can click this link that's right here, and we'll see you next week with another best of 2019.
See you guys.